Pregame.com.
Pregame.tv, college football action. Let's go to the Apple State for the Apple Cup here in Washington. By the way, for 45 years of my life, I ate Red Delicious apples, and then I finally discovered that I like Golden Delicious, the little green apples, better. I wish I would have known that when I was 5, but I digress. Brady, break this one down for us.
I like this matchup, and the Pac-12 is where I grew up, so I'm a little more familiar with these teams than most college conferences. And Washington's been a fun team to watch all year. They've had great wins. They started out beating Boise, Illinois, Arizona, and then they went into a little funk. Lost against Stanford, lost against Oregon. Washington State started out this year. They had a heck of a game against Auburn, who's now number 4 in the country. They only lost that game by 7. Rick Leach, who I think is a great character for sports and college football. He's now taken the reins with the Palouse up there. And then, of course, their huge win against USC. So these teams have both had some nice success. They're both bowl eligible. Washington State just getting there last week with a win over Utah, and now we get the rivalry game.
The shocker to me was not that Washington State got competitive, but I thought that they'd be playing 41-38 games and just going for it on every fourth down, and they've won some games with their defense.
Yeah, and because that's Leach's style, right? When he was at Texas Tech, I mean, you had some high prolific scoring games there, and you're right, exactly. The game against Utah last week, I'm not sure of the final, but I think it was like 21-17 or something like that. It was a lower scoring game, and they had that early on in the year with USC as well. I believe that game was 10-7.
Yeah, which is just an absolute shocker. I know I caught the Washington. I might be biased because I caught the Oregon game, and that was the game where Oregon wore pink. By the way, a team hasn't covered yet wearing pink.
That's right.
I think they're 0-17 against the spread with the breast cancer awareness stuff. But in that game, it was Washington State got every break known to man to cover that game. So I said, this team's no good. And right after that game, it shows how you can't just handicap based upon one game. They've been absolutely fine.
Yeah, and, on the other hand, too, for Washington, they go into UCLA, really played a good game in that game, lost their starting quarterback, and that really killed them, and they lost to UCLA. And then they come back last week and really destroyed Oregon State. So this team is impressive as well. We
want to play the dog in all these rivalry games. I hear that all the time. You throw out the records and the teams, tend to converge back to a low-scoring game. Is that going to happen again here?
That's what I think. That's what I'm banking on because I think, the number's 14.5, and I think you can certainly make a case for that number. But again, it's that whole rivalry, last game of the season deal that I think, like you said, you can throw some of those records and stats out the window.
Let's go ahead and make him have an official play on this one, if you will.
Taking a look at Friday's game here with the Washington State Cougars going against the Washington Huskies. This one will be in Seattle, rivalry game, and in that case, we always like to look at underdogs. I feel this number's a little bit high. 14.5 is out there now, and I have seen it come down, back down to 14 in a few spots. Might be under 14 before kickoff. If you're going to play this game, I would probably recommend doing it fast while you can still get 14 plus that hook. Now, we took a look at some of the games these teams have won this year. Washington State opens the year losing to Auburn, at Auburn, only by 7 points. Then they go beat USC, they hammer Cal, and then they go on a losing streak to some good teams. They lose to Oregon State, Oregon, and Arizona State, and then they finish the year to become bowl eligible by beating Arizona and Utah. The Pac-12 is a very tough division, and I think that's one of the disappointments of Pac-12 fans, why they can't get someone to the big dance at the end of the year, is because they beat up on each other all year long, and we've seen that. Oregon just going down to Arizona. These teams, this division, or conference rather, is deep, and you can't get one champion to the top necessarily and into that BCS title game, but as a whole, they have a very good conference. Now, on the other side, Washington starts out beating Boise, wins at Illinois, wins Arizona. They go on a streak of losing to some good teams, Stanford, Oregon, Arizona State. You have a very similar schedule of wins and losses for each of these teams, yet this weekend, the lines maker saying we're going to make this a 14.5-point favorite in favor of the Huskies. In a rivalry game like this, I'm just not buying it. In fact, in this series, the last 21 times, the last 21 meetings between Washington State and Washington, the underdog has covered 15 times. I also think there's another factor here that is going in the favor of Washington State, and that is head coach Steve Sarkisian is very much in the conversation to get the USC job. That could have his attention. They've talked about that announcement coming as soon as this weekend after USC plays UCLA. I can't believe the coach doesn't have that somewhere in the back of his mind, so I'm considering that a factor as well. Finally, Washington State getting bowl eligible last weekend with a win over Utah. This team is riding a little bit of momentum, and now they come into their rivalry game, and I think Leach will have these guys fired up to possibly take down their in-state rival in the Huskies, just as they did last year, also as a 14-point dog by a final of 31-28. We're going with the Cougars, the Palouse, plus 14.5 on Friday.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I was going to bet on 3 other games. Forget that. I'm just putting the entire mortgage on the Washington State Cougs after that analysis. I love it. I love the whole coach distracted, possibly going to USC. Hey, this is one game, I guess, in Tennessee and Washington. You can go ahead and attend the game, go to the game in a boat to go up to the stadium. I agree with Brady. There's no way Washington State's going to get boat raced in this one. By the way, I never know what that expression even means, a boat race in sports. But I know it means a blowout, but I don't know, get keel hauled, or I guess you get tied to the front of the boat, and that's what keel hauling is. I just found that out. Regardless, I think it was tremendous analysis. I'm on it. Go Cougs. Stay with us, pregame.tv. We're going to be breaking down, we're going to stay in Seattle. We're going to be breaking down Monday Night Football, the Saints at Seattle, where they never lose. Stay with us, pregame.tv.